Okay, very well. Now, we are now going to start formally. And as you may see there, this is a unique session, which is actually culture. It's actually Christian culture. And basically, many of us know and understand that we cannot be able to operate as community development practitioners in isolation of taking into consideration those many cultural aspects that surround us. Some of these cultural aspects are the ones that help us to make critical decisions. Some of these cultural aspects are the ones that help us to align ourselves, move into different communities, understand them as they are. And some of these cultural aspects are the ones that serve as the gateway to reaching into different communities as well as different community settings. At the same time, culture can sometimes be a hindrance or even a block to real, tangible community development practice. That means that culture may have its own advantages, may have its own disadvantages. Now, this session is going to be one where we are going to have a cultural orientation. You don't need to really have prepared by way of writing a paper per se. You probably have what you may call, maybe you may put and express your culture in any way that you feel is good. It could, for example, be a song, a dance, or even a statement and that kind of a thing. And before I move on, I see our technical person has raised his hand up. There is something that you want to say. Alex, I want to give you this time. Probably you can introduce yourself, say what you want to say, and maybe you can start us off on the cultural aspect of the presentation for which we are. Welcome.
Thank you, Prof. I would like to take this opportunity to seek a consent from the delegates within this forum that the session is being recorded because it's an opportunity for subsequent publishing within the websites and the social media platforms. This therefore to let us know that if at some point during your presentation you won't like it to be on record, maybe you will let the host know. Thank you. Over to you, Prof.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Alex. I think the consent has been given. For those who may have joined us, I see Jane Robertson has just joined us, and we are having a very interesting session, which is actually an open session. And this session is culture. The session is culture. And as you may be aware, and this is basically what you were saying, is that our interventions in different community settings cannot be done in isolation of the culture that our people belong to. And we started by saying that the culture of our people is important. The culture of our people make them be what they are. The culture of our people, to a certain extent, define them. And community development workers sometimes enter into those communities by way of the culture of our people. And it is for this reason that this session has actually been set so that people can come in, share a little bit about their culture or their cultural perspectives. And we are going to do it in a very unique way. We are going to do it the way that we do it even in the communities. Someone can start us maybe by giving us a story, the way they do them in their communities. Someone can start by doing a dance, a song that they do in the communities. Someone can do a poem, as long as we can be able to understand it. And feel free, you can even use your own language, because culture is defined by language and that kind of a thing. So this session is open, so to say, but you're going to do it in the context that can help us to understand the different community settings, community orientations that we all belong to in our respective societies. So you're most welcome. Who is going to start us off? Any volunteer? Yes, Cynthia, can I hand over the microphone to you, please? You are muted, Cynthia. Yes.
Thank you, Prof. Am I expected to say something about the culture in Kenya?
Yes, you may say something about the culture in Kenya, and you can also depict it actively. And the next person to do this will be Kenyanito Dundi. He's going to give us a little number, even as he explains that to us here. Thank you so much. So go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So basically, I can say my culture, and in Kenya, we do have various cultures based on different tribes and regional diversity. So I come from a culture that is we love milk, and I am a Kalenjin, and we really love milk, and that is something that we appreciate. When you visit our homes, the first thing we wouldn't give you water or juice, would give you milk instead. And we really appreciate people with milk. I think you've seen how much Kenya is good in sports, and when sports individuals come back home and they have won, we appreciate them with milk in our guards. So that is a very special culture that is related to the Kalenjin people in Kenya. Thank you, Prof. Back to you.
Thank you so much. And you forgot to say that part of that culture is associated with athletics. So when people outside Kenya hear of the great athletes from Kenya, they actually come from there. And to a certain extent, that culture contributes to the great athletes that you get to see when you see that Kenya is known for long distance runners and the like. May I pass on the microphone to Kenyanito Dundi, and I can see him there. And I'm sure he's going to also give us a number, a dance, and we shall join him on the floor. Kenyanito?
Okay, put on your dancing shoes. Are you ready?
We are ready.
Yes, we're ready, Kenyanito.
Yes.
Okay. Yesterday we did Hakuna Matata, the so-called famous dance in Kenya. I want to look at culture in the context of resilience as one. I want to pick it from our connectedness and resilience in our African context, as we also enhance community development, because there's some cultural practices which are very, very good from my ethnic community group, where we have a particular mother tongue, and we also uphold some of the norms, the practices which were passed to us from our forefathers, and we are facing a challenge today in that there are a lot of cultural erosion as we also try to live in the current society. And as a result, even some of the community ties, some of the connectedness that we once had are slowly running away, because there were some songs that people would sing, like the one we're going to sing in the next few minutes, as they were practicing development in their communities. And unless we remain resilient to these, we will never have this passed down to our grandchildren. So I want to give it that lens as we talk of culture and community development. Like when people were building a house, so my culture, you didn't need to go and get a special builder, and you won't need to pay a builder. people would come together. It will be a communal work, and where the owner of the house would be smeared on her face, some mud, and then again a lot of entertainment. The in-laws of the young lady would also try to at least do some kind of teasing with her, and then again they would eat fish. That's culture, because I come from the lake. My home is in Western Kenya, where we enjoy a lot of fresh fish from the lake, fish with bones called tilapia, and we enjoy that. And so we would sing some songs as we eat that, or I enjoy also eating chicken with the legs from our in-laws from Mashemeji. And so these are some of the cultural things that I think we would love to be resilient about in order to carry on community development. So are you ready to sing? Prof, I think I stopped there, because if I was to sing, I will be singing alone, and it will be.
No, we will mute, but we will be singing with you, because if we all sing, the echoes will make it unclear. So
Precisely.
we will mute and then allow you to do the song, to do the singing, because you know you've told us something interesting. You eat chicken with legs.
Yes.
Good. Go ahead.
So I will then refer you to some YouTube, and then if not, there's this song which would be sung to urge African folks from my community to remain resilient in the war front zones. Our borders, we have got a boundary that we share with the Cynthia Kerings. So we'll send our guys, and then we'll urge them keep on going and bring some movement. So, woi, zero, they are there. So that means that a man is like the pillar and the cornerstone. So you should keep going, whether there's an enemy or not, you should keep going. And that would make people to remain resilient and keep getting what was before him, be it farming, be it whatever. So I want to urge us, let us also keep going, because the community is looking up at us. That's my bit of sharing, Prof. Though you caught me unawares, but I think I've tried to share my culture. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Kenyan Nito. We appreciate that. And perhaps there could be some other areas where culture definitely comes in, and it is seen to be very significant. You know, culture to a great extent is used in helping people overcome maybe challenges that they go through. Culture is used when it comes to conflict resolution. Some cultural aspects may be used for conflict resolution. It's also used when it comes towards making people bond together, get together, reunite. Again, certain aspects of culture may be used in that. Allow me to now open the forum, someone else to share more about what culture does in the context of community development. And you can also depict it by way of a story that you can tell us, by way of a song that you can dance and try to involve us so that you're moving together. The floor is now open to anybody, please. And we need to have diverse cultures and cultural aspects in this particular session. You want to begin us? Move on.
Hi.
Hi, Judy.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Judy. I'm a community development practitioner currently within a housing association. But my example of culture is my family's originally from the Caribbean, in Jamaica. And I try to go to Jamaica as often as I can. And I previously, over the past couple of years, I've been and tried to I do volunteer work there and try to do some community development work there as also. But the culture, as how I've remembered it, and how I'm now accepted has changed because I'm now seen as a British person, even though I grew up there partially. So that was a culture shock for me. And it still is, because you still see them as, oh, well, she's from England, that kind of attitude. And but I don't see it that way. And it's really quite strange how all this is happening, because over the past couple of weeks, I've been kind of struggling with community development, and I've been wrapping my hair and in remembrance of Louise Bennett, who's one of the kind of founder literature of in Jamaica. She would wrap her hair and she say certain poems and certain folk songs, and for me, from my childhood, is what I remember. And she epitomized a lot around community development, and she's very much around community culture, folklore, and lots of things like that. And as things are changed in the community I work with, there's a little poem a long poem actually, that she wrote, and it's called Changes. And I just read a little bit from it. My Jamaican accent, it's not brilliant, but I'm going to try. And just a little bit that it said here, just around Victoria Park. It says, a whole heap of things are strange on the street. Big streets have become one-way streets. It's easy to walk now. You can't drive through. You have to cycle around Victoria Park. And it's very much kind of relates to the community that I'm working now. There are lots of cycling lanes around, the streets are cut off and things like that here. And it's just something that really resonates with me culturally and as a development worker. I'm a little bit nervous about it, and I'm quite excited about this particular session. So I'm just looking forward to hear everyone. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Judy, for that sharing. Can I open it to anyone else, please? Someone else? Anyone else? Right, Claire, I want to hand over the microphone to you. What dost thou sayest?
I might share a song, but I won't sing because I'm not very good at singing. But you know that I was the chair of the Dundee conference, and we tried to embed as much as we could about culture and the culture of Dundee into the conference. And the song that I heard when I was a wee girl in Dundee, growing up with my gran, was the jute mill song, because my grannies worked in jute mills in Dundee and my granddads worked in the shipyards. So when I stood to open the conference in Dundee a couple of years ago, the words of this song were just going round my head all the time. And it was the opening song that we had in the conference. And I'll try to just find it on YouTube. And it's an incredible song, and it was written by a jute mill worker in Dundee called Mary Brooksbanks. And Mary Brooksbank was a socialist and a woman who brought workers' rights right to the fore of culture in Dundee. And for me, the words of the song, there's a particular line that says, "Oh dear me, the world is ill divided, and them that work the hardest are aye the least provided." And these were the songs that I was sung when I was a wee girl at home. And I'm going to share the song now. I think I've found it, and I hope it works. So if you don't mind, if you can indulge me 2.5 minutes, and let's see that this works. Is this working for you?
Oh dear me, the mill's gaen fast, and the pair wee shifters cannae get a rest. Shifting bobbins, course and fine, they fairly make you work for your 10 and 9. Oh dear me, I wish the day was done, running up and doing the pass is nae fun. Shifting, piecing, spanning, warp, weft and twine, to feed and clad my bare knees off at 10 and 9. Oh dear me, the world's all divided. Them that work the hardest are aye the least provided. But I'm gonna be contented, dark days and fine, for there's nae much pleasure living half at 10 and 9. Oh dear me, the mill's gain fast, and the pair wee shifters can't get a rest. Shifting bobbins, course and fine, they fairly make you work for your 10 and 9. Oh dear me.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Claire. It's a nice piece. In fact, we clap from wherever we are, and we really appreciate it. I believe many of us here will agree with me that culture is depicted in many ways. Culture is depicted in songs, dance, music, and that kind of a thing. Now, culture is also passed on when people are establishing bonds, bonds, whether it's bonds of marriage, when people are probably embracing other communities, even as a new community development worker is setting into a new community to really work. Sometimes here in Kenya, here in Africa, we do it in song and dance to welcome that person and to usher that person. And culture is also depicted through language. Language, it's a very powerful tool. And that's why many of us, by now you may have heard us, we are saying, Karibuni sana, which is welcome. Others are hearing us saying Asante sana, which is thank you in Kenya. That's a language that probably you may have discovered and gotten to know. Laula, which other one? Can you take this opportunity now and tell us maybe 2, 3 other words that you may have learned here as you take us through? Laura, please, over to you. In just a minute or a second.
Oh, now you're putting me on the spot. Okay. Hujambo, if you're talking to 2 or more people. Habari za asubuhi, or good morning. Oh my gosh, so many words. Wewe, when you're saying you, wewe to the little children. I have so many. Twende to the boda drivers, let's go. Yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of words flowing through my head when I think of Kenya. When I think of culture, I definitely think of Kenya. I'm from a very small island in Canada called Newfoundland, if any of you have heard of it. And so I'm a Newfie. That's what we call ourselves. That's our culture. And we also have our own very unique dialect. I don't know, some people say it's our own language. I would describe it as drunk Irish pirates. That's the best way. If you want to look into it, you can look into it online. There's lots of language tutorials, but I identify as a settler in New Zealand. I live in New Zealand. So in New Zealand, I would be known as a Pakeha to Maori indigenous people here. But it's very similar to Mzungu in Kenya, so being called a Mzungu, which I became quite accustomed to, having blonde hair living in Mombasa. But I'm also a non-status Mi'kmaq from Newfoundland. So in Canada, we classify our indigeneity by parts. So I've always struggled with that cultural aspect of my identity, because for my grandfather, who was Indigenous, who was Mi'kmaq, in 1949 in Newfoundland, if you declared that as a male, you weren't actually able to vote. So you lost your rights. It was a very derogatory thing for him to be identified as Aboriginal. So because of that, we have lost kind of some of our links. And it's something through living in New Zealand I really would love to have discovered. But living in Kenya, I see culture. I work with young people in sexual health, and one of the things we talked about was intergenerational transmission of knowledge, and the ways we talked about that was in a cultural space for Mi'kmaq people, baraza. So we sat in barazas and had conversations that was led by the elder in a small community there, and it was really interesting to see and hear how young people's cultures were changing, how it was both a globalized culture and a very traditional culture. And I kind of find that myself as quite a traveler, seeing my culture, I can't really pin it down anymore. It's quite a mixture of many different cultures. And I think that's kind of there's lots of challenges, but it's also one of the beauties of it as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that sharing, Laura. We appreciate, and you're most welcome. Perhaps at this point in time, I can hand over the microphone to Connie Loden. I see there is a sharing that you have done there. After Connie, we can welcome Diare Drame, if I pronounce your name correctly. So excuse me. So
yes, you did pronounce my name correctly. Connie Loden. So nice to meet you all. I live in Wisconsin on one of the Great Lakes, Lake Michigan in the US. So really pretty this morning, and a gorgeous sunny summer day. But our culture does tend to like to make fun of itself. In Wisconsin, we tend to, one of the favorite drinks is an old fashioned. And so the link that I put into the chat is a video of a man who publishes a blog or a video blog called the Manitowoc Minute, which is all about making fun of our Wisconsin culture. And so it's about making an old fashioned. And it's about 5 minutes long, so I didn't know if you wanted to play it, but you have a link to play it on your own.
thank you so much, Connie. We appreciate it. Right. Now, Diare, your hand was up. Your hand was up. I don't know whether I'm pronouncing it properly. Diare Drame. Yes, can I give you this minute to say what you wanted to say? Oh. You are muted. Please unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can see you.
Okay, hi. I'm Diare, and I live in Dundee. And I've been in Dundee for more than 10 years, but I've got my own culture, which I try to share with my children. And we've got, I think they normally know the song that we share, that when they are crying, a lullaby song. So although we are struggling to share some songs with the children, but we try to sing this song most often. But I can't sing it properly. My voice is not that great. So, for example, my son, so I have to sing like, okay, I need to, let me try. Can you hear me? Yeah. Yeah, okay. So we got one that says, like, when the child is crying, we just say, Sona Mariam, oh, Sona Mariam. Dindong balanta bana faye, Sona Mariam. Akabitala koreto, koba koba koreto, Sona Mariam. So we use this song. So even though I'm not living in the Gambia anymore, Senegal anymore. So these are some of the songs that we try to sing to our children when they are crying. And they love it. So yeah, that's what I want to share.
Thank you so much, Drame, for that sharing. Now, there's a gentleman here, and I know he was not prepared at the time I point at him or tell him to say something. But I know very well that in their culture, they use music to pass on messages of all types. In their culture, they use music to pass on political messages. They also use culture, in their culture, they also use music to counsel young boys when they are growing up, when they're going through different transitions, stages in life. When Moses come out, I want to give you this opportunity. Can you tell us more about culture and the experiences that you get which are related to culture, being a practitioner of many years in the field? So kindly share. And at the same time, I would like you to also let us know, is culture always very positive? Are there some negative aspects that emanate from culture and which community development workers need to take care about? Over to you, Bwana Moses,
All right.
AKA.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Moses Kamau from Kenya. And I'm excited to hear different cultures. And I want to say, Professor, yes, we use in our culture, which basically comes from central part of Kenya, Kikuyu culture. We use songs to pass political messages, to pass intergenerational wisdom. And it is exciting how it is done through songs. And we have many artists that compose various, songs to pass various messages, including religious messages, traditional wisdom, politics, and all that. And I just want to say that when it comes to community development and culture, sometimes it's very difficult to implement some programs as a community development worker if you really do not understand the community that you want to get into in terms of their system of governance that may not be written anywhere, but it's known, their eldership systems. There are those people that we call gatekeepers that if you do not pass through them, you are not going to get it. It's not going to be easy in the community. You have also to understand the seasons. For example, in Kenya, many communities practice farming. So if, for example, if it's during planting season, harvesting season, you may not call for barazas, like Lauda said. You have to understand that this season is for this, and this season is for this. So when you are coming up with a community development program, you have to understand. You also have to understand their religions, their religion, their beliefs, their cultural events like circumcision that takes place in parts of Western Kenya, so that you do not bring programs that contradict what they believe. And of course, there are negative cultures or cultural beliefs, like when we talk about FGM, sorry to say that it's still remains in some pockets of this country, of course, in a very hidden way. And if it is to be curbed, then we have to know, to understand the system, the leadership systems in those communities that practice such retrogressive culture. So I mean, as a community development practitioner, we have various communities in this country. And if you are practicing community development in those various cultures, then you must understand how they do things, what are their beliefs, what are their values, so that it becomes easy. And you identify who should I talk to when I want to get. Some believe in their religious leaders, some believe in their, you know, those elders, the village elders and all that. So you have to go through them for you to get your project or your program appreciated, and they buy in. So I think that's okay, Professor. Otherwise, we in Kenya we have very rich, positive culture, I must say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much, Bwana Kamau, for that open sharing. And I think we also need to know that culture and the region are intertwined. Or do we say that the region is part and parcel of people's culture in some situations? And in some situations, therefore, you may find that some religious beliefs may be critical factors that inhibit, or those which make people not, which happen to block community development practice in communities. So as much as culture is good, sometimes it can also have some detrimental impact upon different communities. I see a hand up there. I don't know whether I'm not able to see the name. Is that one of our technical persons? There's a hand. I want to give you the opportunity, please. Yes, Guha, please take the mic.
I would like to share with you with our experience. As I said at the beginning, I am from post-Soviet Republic from Kazakhstan, and now I'm still in the post-Soviet country in Georgia. And I would like to say that our culture is still similar. Our culture very hospitality, very welcome. We have family with we have big families, and my nation like to keep family together. Do not separate, to live together, with children, with neighbors. And if I talk about the experience in practice, in community practice, in community development practice, as I said, that I have a little son with autism, and he received only the very pure culture. He received only the classic music, maybe the music and the songs that can touch the hearts of the human, the hearts of any people, not just autistic children. And he received only the games that bring together the people, and I think that it's a great, and it's a right, and it's useful for not just for disability people. It's useful for normal people, also for any community. I think that the culture, no matter what, music or games or tradition, just elementary welcoming. It's joined us together, and the culture is the point that joined the nations together. Thank you.
Culture of a people joins them together. Now, do we have anybody here from anyone from Japan? Anyone from Japan? Now, I'm just recorrecting something which I saw and which I thought was very, very interesting at some point in time. If you remember, during the last World Cup, you see the Japanese football team, if I remember, when they were there and they were in the dressing room, after they had played and done everything in the changing room, the Japanese were able to go, they cleared and cleaned the dressing room, the changing room, let me use that word, they cleaned the changing room. And that is something that left everybody perplexed, amazed. These guys are very unique. They didn't just leave it littered just like that. In this case, therefore, would we be right to say that probably culture is the culture of a people to a certain extent is also influenced by their country ethos or the ethos that they have in their country? That I really don't know. Maybe someone can give a comment on this or something like that, which again we find to be quite unique in community development. Anyone with a view to that extent or even another one? Please welcome.
This is Wandusan. I don't know if you are hearing.
We can hear you.
Oh, okay, thank you. I have some issues with my computer, so I'm just trying. So I'm from Ethiopia. So I hope most of you know at least something about Ethiopia. We Ethiopians are unique in many aspects. We have thousands of story. We are the origin of humankind. We never been colonized. We have unique culture. So in terms of culture, we have kind of untouched culture. That's not spoiled or that's not dissolved with other kind of culture. But nowadays, this culture is being eroded due to the effect of globalization. We have, I think most of you know that we have our own alphabet, we have our own language, we have our own calendar. We have everything unique to the rest of the world that most of the countries don't have. So we have also diversified culture. We have like more than 70 tribes. And among these tribes, there are, yes, of course, there are some kind of, you know, bad traditional culture components, like we have Mingi, which is common in Omo area, in South Omo. This is a culture, just to mention for you, it's a culture that kills all infants whom their teeth, the upper teeth, if the upper teeth grows before the lower teeth, you know, the front teeth, so they will be called Mingi and killed. We have such kind of, but now this culture is being, you know, is being controlled by government, by law, and another like female genital mutilation, but this also being controlled, and there is a lot of struggle, but we have a lot of good, very good cultures like, accepting or inviting strange man that comes, giving respect to other people. So when I come to the effect of community development in and culture, unless that community development considers the culture of that community, we can't say that culture is community development can't be achieved, because community development is about grassroots development. So that grassroots development should consider the culture of that community. So without taking into consideration culture, community development cannot be achieved. That's my view. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Wood Warzen. Thank you so much. And I'm sure many of us know about that country called Ethiopia. And as he rightly said, I think Ethiopia is one of the few countries that have that unique culture where they have a different calendar from others. But of course, the global community makes them use the other calendar. But deep down their hearts, they also know that they have their own calendar, their own transcript. That's what he called their own alphabet. And that is something that distinguishes them. Right now, I want to open this session briefly. We are just winding up. Anybody who would like to say something about culture in the context of community development practice? Probably you can also wind up by doing a song, a dance, or something to that effect, which may convey the message that you have in mind. I just want to leave it open. Yes, anyone with something like that? Okay, so thank you so much once again. This session was open and the organizers had opined that we leave it open, and when it is open, it gives people another opportunity altogether to learn something different. And I want to thank you for choosing this particular session. As we wind up, let's wind up knowing full well that culture is important, but at the same time, culture of a people can be disastrous if abused. I want to thank you so much. Have a nice time. Enjoy yourselves. Let's meet tomorrow for the other sessions. My name is Jidra Wairire from the University of Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you and have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Gigi.
Maybe, Prof, I'm not sure whether Jim has something to say.
Jim, are you with us?
Yes, can I just to mention to you, I wasn't sure. I was trying to find some music about a kind of refugee group, which we have here in the northeast of England, and the whole group develops around using music, and people come and learn to play the guitar, learn to play the violin, learn to play the drums, and then share each other's music, you know, from the different backgrounds and wherever. And I was trying to find it on YouTube, an example of the band, just to end, because it's very lively. It was just, you know, to mention that for interest, really. So maybe next time then try and find it. I wasn't sure whether it was against the things you were saying, but as to whether, do you see class differences as a cultural clash?
I think so. You know, that brings us to another element in sociology, because definitely class differences permeate a different culture altogether. The have got a culture of their own. The have-nots have got a culture of their own. And I think there are different illustrations that you can use to that effect.
Yes.
And yeah, and I don't think this is something that is just practically evident in the Kenyan situation, but I think it's something which is evident in many African countries and even other countries outside Kenya.
It's something every day in England, I can assure you.
Right.
You know, in terms of the attitude to people in disadvantaged areas and things like that. There's certainly a clash, culture clash, really.
Indeed, I agree with you.
Yes. That's quite serious. And just for interest, that a few years ago, we were fortunate enough to get enough resources from the British Council, if you've heard of that organization. And it was to exchange experiences between NGO groups in Ukraine and NGO groups in England. And it was enough resources for 10 people to make an exchange both ways, if you understand what I mean. So when the Ukraine group came to England, we specifically selected projects that were in disadvantaged areas. So the Ukrainians were actually meeting people who were doing things in the disadvantaged areas. And of course, my message to them in preparing for that was to say, don't just tell the Ukrainians what you're doing, tell them why you're doing it, if you understand what I mean. And that proved to be hugely successful. And when the British group went to Ukraine, 10 of them, we selected people from disadvantaged areas to go there. And for some of them, it was the first time they had moved beyond, you know, the culture clash to see a new world. And of course, in Ukraine, we went to Crimea, where we had to meet the Tatar community who had been sent out of there by Stalin, and how the Ukrainians found it difficult to reintegrate the Muslim group. So we were playing a game of matching across cultures. Anyway, it's the kind of examples that came to mind in your thing there, which were quite complex, but really it proved to be very successful. So just for interest.
Yes, yeah, indeed, Jim. I totally concur with you. It is a reality, and those are very good examples that you gave it. I wish you gave them in the bigger group when you were meeting.
Well, I wasn't sure whether it was just complicated because, you know, but anyway, it was really a complex example.
Because actually, because the idea of culture can be so complex, because we not only look at culture in terms of people's ways of living, beliefs, traditions, and that kind of a thing. We also look at it differently, as we went on to put it. And you also find that culture can also be intergenerational. Culture can also be found within groups and subgroups, and a particular group or subgroup has got a different culture, which is to a certain extent different from others. Similarly, if you look at the academia, when I look at the academia, I find that they have a culture of their own, which is again probably different from the community development practitioners. So
yes, exactly.
It is complex, diverse, and can be seen from different aspects and different angles. So thank you so much for sharing. I sincerely appreciate the sharing, and thank you, Alex, for the support.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Look forward to keeping in touch. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Indeed. Which university are you, Jim, before we wind up?
Well, I'm actually...
Or you are a practitioner? Yes.
Well, a mixture. I actually worked at the University of Northumbria, which is in Northeast England.
Yes.
That's in Newcastle, but I'm retired from there now. But most of my career there, I was committed to what's called action research.
Yes.
so most of the things we did always involved people in the community. But the universities now in England are into making money and not so interested in these cultural, the learning from culture is less important than making money, which is a bit of a sadness for many universities in England. It's a sad thing for those of us who knew of it in early days of research, teaching and public service. These used to be the cornerstones of our thinking. But there's no such thing as public service now without money.
Indeed. Okay. So thank you so much, and have a good one. We'll
thank you.
Another time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yes.